How you guys all doing? Welcome back to the GSMC Chip Shot Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm your host, Manny Maradiaga, live today on Friday, June the 21st, going over some more stories in the NFL today, surrounding a lot of interesting storylines and some more discussion topics that I wanted to get into on today's show. Starting off with the most important news, I think, of the day, Rhamondre Stevenson getting a new contract extension with the New England Patriots, sort of setting a bar for Najee Harris and how that will affect him and his contract negotiations with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Then we're going to go over a potential solution to the quarterback market just growing and growing over the last few years. What could be a potential solution to that, and how could these quarterbacks and their contracts keep growing over the next few years, and what can be done about that? Then a defender in the AFC North pointed out a potential difference maker outside of all the talented quarterbacks that they already have in that division, and what to make of it. Do I agree with it? And what can be done about those difference makers, and how important can they be in 2024? All that and much more on today's show. So make sure to like, follow, and subscribe to the GSMC Chip Shot Football Podcast, as well as remembering, if you have any questions or comments you want to make, use the tip and donations link, GSMCpodcast.net, that you see on your screen. By using that, I'm able to see your question or comment, address it, and just get your guys' thoughts and perspective on anything you have to say on any of the topics on today's show. It's a massive help for the show and the network, so if you would, please use the tip and donations link, GSMCpodcast.net. But in saying that, we'll get back to the first topic and start off by talking about that new contract that Rhamondre Stevenson got with the New England Patriots. Yesterday, it was announced a 4-year, $36 million deal between Stevenson and the Patriots, keeping him there for the foreseeable future until his 30s. He is 26 years old and has $17 million guaranteed going his way from the Patriots. He was only able last year to play in 12 games because of a high ankle sprain, but the year before that, in 2022, he was the Patriots' leading rusher, tallying over 1,000 yards, 5 yards per carry, 5 touchdowns, 69 receptions, and 421 receiving yards. And they might not be the most popping numbers in terms of stats, but the fact that over the last 3 seasons he was splitting carries with Damian Harris, Ezekiel Elliott, now he really steps into the limelight to really be that workhorse running back. They also signed Antonio Gibson this offseason, but I would still expect, based on just my evaluation of it and what head coach Gerard Mayo has said about the topic, that Rhamondre Stevenson will probably predominantly get most of the carries this season. They feel that gives him the best chance to win, and I would have to agree with that, just because he has been pretty dominant is the word that pops up right away during his time here with the Patriots. Slow uprising and development, but recently, over the last few years, he has become more and more of a difference maker for the Patriots, and just fitting their style, I think, that they could sort of go to when maybe they don't have the most prominent, elite, bona fide wide receivers, the most elite quarterbacks maybe anymore. We'll see how Drake May turns out, but going to a running game and having a solid running back and a pretty decent O-line is a great way to do that. And Rhamondre Stevenson has been with the Patriots so far that he is actually only 3,188 yards away from becoming the franchise leader in terms of rushing yards. A good way away from beating Sam Cunningham's record, but that kind of shows that he has been here for a while and has already made an impact with the New England Patriots organization. I had no idea he was that close to break that deal, and if he keeps averaging what he has been averaging for the last 2 to 3 years, about 800 to 700 yards, he'll certainly get that, and he'll cement a legacy, really, all in all, for himself with the Patriots. But now that sort of puts him in a group this offseason with Saquon, Christian McCaffrey, and Josh Jacobs as the running backs to get paid and get a new contract heading into 2024. That is all well and good for the running backs. I'm sure every running back loves seeing their peers get paid to sort of try and uptick that value that the market has sort of fallen off a little bit. Now they get some more guys getting paid. Christian McCaffrey is getting paid almost $20 million per year on his new contract. So hopefully this is a turning point a little bit for the running back market. You'd love to see that, because some of those guys that I mentioned, Christian McCaffrey, Saquon, and Rhamondre Stevenson even too, are very much difference makers for their organization. So hopefully it can get back to a little bit more of an equal sort of look for this running back market. But what does that mean now for Najee Harris? I wanted to switch over to that a little bit more because he is now probably the most prominent name in the running back market that needs a new contract extension, because like we talked about yesterday or a few days ago, that the Steelers didn't pick up Najee's fifth-year option. They declined it, so this year, 2024, will be the last year on his rookie deal. And it does come down to a tough decision for the Steelers, because at one end, how much more can Najee do for this organization to earn himself a pretty good contract, something that is worth what he has brought to the Steelers? But at the other hand, where do they stand on feeling comfortable maybe paying Najee Harris $9 million, $10 million? Because what Rhamondre Stevenson just got, 36 for 4 years, $9 million per year, that's probably the absolute minimum I would think Najee would accept by the Pittsburgh Steelers. And you can't blame him, because basically Rhamondre and Najee have pretty equal careers in terms of being in the league 3 years. Also 26 years old. Rhamondre just got his deal this year. Najee needs one now too. And if you look at them side by side, a comparison, Najee has bested him in yards in the NFL. In touchdowns, he has significantly more carries than Rhamondre Stevenson does. And Rhamondre, with all that being true, is making $9 million per year already. So based on that, you can only think that Najee believes that he definitely deserves at least absolute minimum $9 million from the Pittsburgh Steelers. And if you look at some of these numbers too, I wanted to bring them up because 3 years in the NFL as a running back, and talking about running backs and how they do so much, you think of Christian McCaffrey in the passing game, the running game, and just being a weapon all over. Even to Alvin Kamara, Saquon, now them being in the league a few more years, how they've developed into this workhorse running back now later in their careers. But already Najee, since coming out of college, out of Alabama, and straight into the Pittsburgh Steelers, he got 307 carries as a rookie, and he has 834 carries through 3 years in the NFL, which is just insane. Almost 1,000 carries without even getting your first contract extension is a lot of work on Najee. And like I mentioned before, he has averaged 1,000 yards in each of his first 3 years, the first running back in Steelers history to do that. And also, some more of his stats: 22 touchdowns in 3 years, 28 touchdowns if you include the 6 receiving touchdowns on top of all that. And with all of that being the case, those sort of numbers that I just threw out there, 834 carries, 1,000 yards each year, just right out of college, those numbers are what you'd expect out of Christian McCaffrey, Saquon, Alvin Kamara, some of these running backs now at this point in their career. Najee has been doing this since he stepped foot in the NFL right out of college. So it does have a different level to it, a different feeling for this, because how he's performing now, you can only, I guess from one end, expect him to get better because he is 26, but on the flip side of that, playing devil's advocate, because he's done so much already, is that too much wear and tear on him that you can't really expect him to improve so much because his body's already taken so much punishment? There's a bit of give and take there, obviously something that the Steelers have to work around and discuss, but to me, just based on what he has done so far in a very tough period with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and being there since the rebuild, being there since all the tough times, the rough offenses, just doing everything that he can from a running back position, I think he has earned himself at least $10 million in reality from anybody. If it doesn't happen to be with the Steelers, that's the reality of it. If the Steelers feel that isn't something they could squeeze into their salary cap, then they're going to have to part ways, because Najee, I think, shouldn't sell himself short for everything that he's done already. I think 10 should be the minimum for him. And not a lot of people talk about him, obviously, because of the team success. And just other than that, it's not too flashy. The Steelers run the ball a lot more, and you can see it evidently from the amount of carries he already has. But he isn't really talked about in the limelight of Christian, of Saquon as much, just because I don't think it's too out there so much in the media, where with the Steelers, they're not in the media too much. They're not really talked about as much because there's nothing really to talk about when the games aren't entertaining, low-scoring games. Najee's doing great, but maybe it's just not out there as much as what you see from Christian in some of those games with the 49ers, even with Alvin Kamara and doing everything that he does in the passing game as well. It's not as flashy, but if you really look into it and how much Najee's already contributed to this offense, $10 million is what he should get. And will he get that in this sort of running back market? I think someone will give it to him. The Steelers give me the best impression that they could because I feel that they value him a lot outside of just the football field, but I think someone will give this to him. You know, he's at a good age at 26. He has proven that he could do a lot with a very poor offensive line, and if you could fit him in to a potential high-powered offense, I don't know who needs a running back off the top of my head right now that is considered a high-powered offense just because there's so many that already have a running back, but if you could fit him into something like that, or if the Steelers can find a way to squeeze him into their cap, I think this would make the most sense. He shouldn't take anything less than 10. I'll re-emphasize that because that would be selling himself short in my opinion. Can the Steelers fit that in on top of extending Cam Hayward? A very tough decision because those are two of your captains right there, two of your locker room leaders. So it's going to be definitely a tall task for the Steelers. They don't negotiate again during the regular season, so both of these, maybe one of them, maybe none of them, are going to get done before the start of the regular season in September. So we are coming down to it a little bit here. About 2.5 months left now for those deals to get done. So keep an eye out on that. Those will be two of the most important ones for two massive pieces for the Steelers on each side of the ball to look out for. But again, Rhamondre Stevenson gets his contract, and now he'll be cemented there with the New England Patriots for years to come. So with that being said, we're going to take a break from the show. We're going to go into our first break, and when we return, we're going to talk about the quarterbacks even more now and a potential salary cap only for the quarterbacks that was brought up, that has been discussed around the NFL as a potential solution to this rising quarterback market that we continue to see over the last few years. Is that a good idea? And what else can be done about that with the quarterbacks earning so much? We're going to get into that right after this. You're listening to the GSMC Chip Shot Football Podcast.